There's a kind of deception that no words can disguise, because language was made to hide, yet the body was made to reveal. Every lie spoken travels slower than the pulse that betrays it. The lips can curve into a smile, but the muscles beneath tremble with hesitation. The tone can sound calm, but the breath shortens, as if the body itself were confessing guilt. Machiavelli, the eternal observer of power, would not waste his time on speeches or excuses. He would look at the wrists, the posture, the stillness that tries too hard to be natural. He would notice the small betrayals, the blink too delayed, the glance too quick, the fingers that close when the truth approaches. To Machiavelli, truth was never moral, it was strategic. He understood that humans don't lie merely to deceive others. They lie to protect their own position in the hierarchy of control. But the body, loyal to survival, refuses to play politics for long. It leaks information through involuntary gestures, and those leaks are gold to the one who knows how to read them. A ruler, a manipulator, or a survivor could wield such perception like a weapon, seeing before being seen, knowing before being told. In this silent language of flesh and nerves, power reveals its real grammar. Every movement carries an intention, every hesitation, a confession. The body becomes a battlefield where instinct fights against intention. And while most people listen to words, the Machiavellian mind listens to the tremor behind them. He would say that to see the truth, you must stop listening altogether. Just watch. Because when a person speaks, they tell you what they want you to believe. When they move, they show you who they are. Machiavelli never studied morality. He studied motion. What interested him was not whether an act was good or evil, but whether it worked. Power, he knew, lives in perception, and perception begins with observation. To control others, you must first decode them. He believed that those who fail to read the body lose the game before it begins, because the body is where strategy is first revealed. The mouth can disguise, but the face leaks intent. The voice can flatter, but the jaw clenches when resistance forms. The eyes can look calm, but their timing exposes calculation. In the courts and councils of Renaissance Italy, he saw men destroyed not by weakness, but by blindness, the inability to read gestures as signals of betrayal or submission. A ruler who trusted words was doomed to be deceived by them. A ruler who read movements could foresee rebellion before the first rumor spread. That was Machiavelli's true genius. He saw that politics was theater, and that every actor carries their truth in posture, rhythm, and restraint. He would watch a diplomat bow and see whether his spine bent in sincerity or fear. He would notice whether a handshake lingered too long, whether laughter echoed too loudly. For Machiavelli, power wasn't an act of domination. It was a science of decoding. To rule, you didn't need faith, only vision. And vision meant seeing what others ignored, the hidden tremor in the confident hand, the suppressed breath before a lie, the faint hesitation of a man who fears discovery. This was not paranoia, it was realism. Machiavelli believed survival demanded clarity, and clarity required detachment. To read the body is to strip away illusions. It's to see politics, love, negotiation, and friendship as extensions of the same game, the game of influence. The prince, after all, is not the one who speaks most persuasively, but the one who silently notices what everyone else pretends not to see. The body betrays the liar because truth doesn't live in the intellect. It lives in the flesh. A thought can be rehearsed, but a heartbeat cannot. When a person lies, the body enters conflict with itself. One part tries to conceal, another struggles to maintain coherence. The pulse accelerates, the pupils contract, the breath shifts in rhythm. These are not random reflexes. They are the body's rebellion against cognitive deceit. Machiavelli would have understood this perfectly. He knew that deception is an art that depends on timing, and that timing is ruled by instinct, not will. Before the liar even speaks, the body gives its verdict. The mind may plan the narrative, but the nervous system reacts to the threat of being exposed. This reaction is primitive, older than civilization itself. It is the body's natural alarm system, honed by centuries of survival. It cannot be silenced completely, only masked, And it is in that microsecond of masking that the truth reveals itself. The hesitation before a smile, the unnecessary blink, the shallow exhale before answering, each becomes a whisper of reality breaking through the performance. Machiavelli would watch not the speech, but the pauses between words. He would read the rhythm of breath as a strategist reads the movement of armies. When someone inhales before denying, when the tone rises unnaturally to sound sincere, when the eyes freeze for just a second too long, these are not accidents. They are the body's involuntary revolt against the mind's manipulation. He believed instinct moves faster than intention, and therein lies the secret of power. The one who perceives the body's tempo can predict action before it unfolds. To the untrained, it seems mystical. To the Machiavellian, it is simply anatomy serving strategy. The body, after all, is not loyal to words, it's loyal to survival, and in that loyalty, it always exposes the truth. We live in an age where sincerity has become performance. Every smile is curated, every opinion rehearsed, every emotion filtered through the lens of approval. People no longer communicate to express truth. They communicate to maintain image. Influencers perfect their authenticity, politicians stage their empathy, and ordinary people learn to disguise discomfort behind socially acceptable gestures. Society has become a theater of polished falseness, where the line between honesty and manipulation has dissolved into performance art. But beneath this grand illusion, the body still operates outside the script. It cannot be programmed or politically corrected. It doesn't understand strategy, branding, or diplomacy. It reacts to energy, not intention, to emotion, not narrative. The pulse doesn't lie for followers, the pupils don't contract for reputation. In a civilization obsessed with controlling perception, the body remains the last territory of unfiltered truth. It speaks through tension, through stillness, through those fleeting moments when the mask slips and instinct takes the stage. Machiavelli would have seen this world for what it is, a matrix of manipulation disguised as connection. He would not be distracted by rhetoric or slogans, because he knew that words are the easiest currency of deception. Instead, he would read the micro-expressions that algorithms can't edit. The nervous twitch behind the camera smile, the fraction of hesitation before the politician's vow, the stiffness in a co-worker's shoulders when ambition hides behind cooperation. To read the body in this artificial age is an act of rebellion. It's to pierce through the hologram of social performance and see the trembling human beneath. The one who can read these signals holds silent power. The power to see motives before they re-spoken, to sense lies before they're formed. In a society trained to act, true dominance belongs not to the performer, but to the observer, the one who listens to what cannot be rehearsed. Think about those conversations that left a strange aftertaste. The tone was polite, the smile perfectly placed, yet something inside you recoiled. The words aligned, but the rhythm of the body was off. Maybe the person's hands were too still, their shoulders too tense, or their eyes shifted away just a fraction too soon. You couldn't explain it, but you knew something was wrong. Machiavelli would call that moment of intuition the most reliable form of perception. He would say, never believe what is said, believe what the body refuses to support. Every gesture, however small, is a confession escaping the mind's control. When someone lies, their entire being fractures for an instant. The mouth performs, but the muscles resist the act. The breath shortens, the tone hardens, and the gaze seeks escape. This is the body's silent protest, its declaration of truth under duress. Machiavelli would not need a lie detector. He would simply need silence and attention. He would observe how someone sits when they think no one is watching, how they exhale after speaking, how their eyes blink when questioned. For him, truth was never a matter of words. It was a choreography of tension and release. You've felt it too, that subtle discomfort in a conversation where everything sounds right but feels wrong. Your subconscious notices what your rational mind tries to dismiss. The human brain, after all, evolved to detect incongruence long before it developed language. Machiavelli understood this ancient intelligence. He knew that power comes not from reacting, but from perceiving without revealing that you do. Each microgesture is an involuntary confession. the body's attempt to tell the truth while the mind performs its deception. The liar believes they're acting. The observer knows they're leaking. Machiavelli would smile and remind you, trust your discomfort. It's not paranoia. It's perception awakening before logic catches up. Once you begin to see the signals, you lose the luxury of innocence. The world becomes unbearably transparent, stripped of its polite illusions. You start noticing what others can't or refuse to. The smile that hides resentment, the friendly tone wrapped around concealed contempt, the confident posture that trembles just slightly at the wrists. What once looked like warmth now reveals calculation. What seemed like empathy now carries the scent of submission. You begin to see the choreography behind every interaction, and it feels less like life and more like a play where everyone is pretending not to know their role. Machiavelli would call this the price of awareness, the curse of perception. To read the body is to see beneath civilization's costume, into the primal mechanisms of fear and dominance that still rule beneath the surface. You stop hearing words as truth. You hear them as strategies. Every gesture becomes data. Every silence becomes a message. You realize that sincerity is rare, not because people are evil, but because survival has taught them to act. The body doesn't lie, but it obeys fear. And fear, Machiavelli understood, is the architect of human behavior. This new clarity can feel like exile. The more you see, the less you can belong. Conversations begin to sound rehearsed. Smiles start to resemble camouflage. Crowds look like synchronized performances of denial. You no longer get lost in the illusion of innocence, because now you see the strings. It is a lonely kind of power, the ability to read truth in motion. Yet Machiavelli would not call it a burden. He would call it advantage. To see the theater is to stop being its puppet. Once you recognize the choreography of deceit, you step outside the performance. And though you may never again enjoy the comfort of naivety, you gain something far greater, the freedom to move through the world awake. A politician stands before the crowd, promising justice, prosperity, and change. His voice is steady, his expression composed, but just as he raises his hand in assurance, his fingers brush his neck, a subtle, fleeting gesture. It's the body's ancient reflex to discomfort, a microsecond of self-soothing before deceit takes its full shape. Machiavelli would not miss it. He would see that motion as prophecy, a promise already betraying itself. Words may convince the masses, but that twitch tells the truth. The man doubts his own oath. Elsewhere, a lover smiles during a delicate conversation, but the smile doesn't quite reach the eyes. The lips curve outward, yet the inner muscles tighten inward, as if trying to contain something unsaid. That slight compression reveals repression, resentment, guilt, fear. Machiavelli would read this as clearly as ink on parchment. The face says affection, the body whispers retreat. To him, such contradictions were not emotional mysteries. They were tactical signals, announcing shifts in loyalty long before the words arrived. Then there's the colleague at the meeting who laughs loudly at a superior's joke, but leans subtly back, shoulders slightly turned. The sound declares alliance, yet the posture broadcasts resistance. Machiavelli would recognize the tension between cooperation and defiance, and he'd already know who might one day challenge authority. For him, prediction was not mystical insight, it was anatomy interpreted through strategy. He understood that the body speaks before thought forms. Intention is conceived first in the nervous system, then rationalized by the mind. That's why those who can read gestures can forecast decisions before they are consciously made. The future, Machiavelli would say, does not announce itself through words, but through micro-movements, the tightening of a jaw, the shift of a foot, the exhale of hesitation. In the theater of human behavior, these are the preludes to action, and the one who observes them rules the plot before it unfolds. In the game of power, the body is the map of the soul. Every gesture is a coordinate, every movement a revelation of what lies beneath the mask. The liar doesn't just conceal, he projects. His attempt to hide fear becomes stiffness. His effort to appear confident becomes exaggerated motion. The very energy used to disguise weakness exposes it. Machiavelli would see this not as tragedy, but as opportunity. Where others see emotion, he sees strategy, The body, he'd say, is the battlefield where inner truth and outer performance collide, and whoever learns to read the field first controls the outcome. For Machiavelli, the art of power was never about violence but about perception. The strong dominate not by force but by awareness. To see without being seen, to observe while remaining unread, is the highest form of control. The modern world calls it emotional intelligence. Machiavelli would call it calculated vigilance. In every court, in every negotiation, those who rule are not the ones who speak the loudest, but the ones who silently interpret the human code unfolding before them. The liar, thinking himself clever, reveals far more than he hides. The tremor of his hand, the delay before an answer, the unnatural stillness, all of it exposes the tension between desire and fear. The observer, calm and detached, collects these clues like a chess master reading the opponent's next 10 moves. This is the ancient pattern that has never changed. Deceit breeds exposure. Observation breeds power. Machiavelli would never confuse this with empathy. Empathy seeks understanding, perception seeks leverage. To feel what others feel is noble. To see what others cannot see, that is sovereignty. The one who reads the body doesn't need confession, because every posture is testimony. Every nervous glance, a declaration. Every breath, a strategy revealed. In a world built on appearance, the rare ability to see through it is not compassion, it is advantage. To see through lies is not cynicism, it is self-preservation. The ability to read gestures is not born of distrust, but of awareness. In a world built on subtle performances, this vision becomes armor. The one who sees the truth before it's spoken no longer moves through life as prey, reacting to others' strategies. They move as a sovereign, calm, perceptive, immune to manipulation. Machiavelli would insist that you do not need to fight deception. You simply need to recognize it before it acts. The liar depends on your blindness. The manipulator feeds on your delay. But when you learn to see the tremor before the strike, the glance before the betrayal, the pause before the persuasion, you've already won. This isn't paranoia, it's clarity. When you read the body, you stop engaging with illusions. The world continues to perform, but you no longer play your part unconsciously. The co-worker's exaggerated politeness, the friend's half-smile during confession, the leader's overconfident gestures, all reveal the same truth. People fear exposure more than failure. Seeing this frees you. You no longer react to their words, you respond to their reality. Machiavelli would call this an evolution of instinct, a return to primal intelligence disguised as refinement. Civilization has taught us to ignore what we feel, to believe words over signals. But the body remembers. Reconnecting with this perception restores an ancient form of wisdom, the capacity to sense danger before it arrives, deceit before it unfolds. In truth, this awareness doesn't make you colder, it makes you stronger. You stop demanding honesty from others because you no longer depend on it. You stop chasing clarity because you already see. Machiavelli's quiet advice echoes across centuries. Do not fight lies, observe them. Let them reveal themselves. When you can see the invisible threads of intent behind behavior, manipulation loses its power and perception becomes your shield. Every lie carries its own confession, hidden not in words but in movement. Every manipulation leaves a physical echo, a tremor, a pause, a shift in breath. The body is incapable of silence. It whispers even in stillness. Machiavelli would see this as the true law of power. Those who can read these whispers hold dominion over those who speak too much. To him, perception was a weapon sharper than any blade because it revealed intention before action. The body becomes a map of motives, a living document of truth disguised as flesh. To master it is to navigate the unseen architecture of control. Words are noise, the body is signal. And the one who learns to listen beneath the surface can command without force, influence without exposure. The body never lies, it only whispers. Those who learn to hear it no longer fear deception. They simply recognize it calmly before the world even notices the lie has been spoken. Look around you for a moment. Who praises you with their lips while their eyes measure you like an opponent? Who smiles in agreement, but leans back ever so slightly as if guarding their ground? Who speaks softly but keeps their fists clenched beneath the table? These are not coincidences. They are messages. The body reveals what language conceals, and Machiavelli would have seen every one of these signals as pieces of strategy. You live surrounded by silent negotiations, invisible battles of dominance, submission, fear, and desire. Most people never notice because they listen to words instead of watching truth. But you can't afford that blindness anymore. Look again. The truth is always moving. The body confesses long before the mouth does. Train your eyes to see the twitch before the smile, the hesitation before the promise, the shift before the betrayal. Machiavelli wouldn't just observe these signs, he would use them. The question is, will you continue to ignore them, or will you finally start seeing? Machiavelli would whisper from the shadows, "Power does not belong to those who speak. It belongs to those who see what others hide." The art of reading the body is not entertainment. It is initiation into a deeper intelligence. Every glance, every silence, every subtle shift of posture is part of an unspoken dialogue between truth and disguise. To master it is to stop being a pawn in the theater of persuasion and become the one who directs it. This knowledge turns presence into strategy, awareness into defense, and observation into silent influence. If you wish to learn how to read lies through stillness, detect dominance through breath, and command through perception, subscribe. Because this is only the beginning, the first movement in the ancient game of gestures, where every blink, every pause, every breath reveals the secret language of power.